Hi, I'm Elizabeth, this is the Bookish North. Welcome to the last video of this year's Sagalong, where we have now finished reading Njol Saga. This week's chapters were 121 through the end of the saga. And these chapters are a bit of a mixed bag. They contain some very different elements. So the beginning sort of the section we've read this week is the pinnacle of this saga, and arguably one of the most famous scenes in all of the Icelandic sagas, which is the burning in of Njol and his entire family. So this is the culmination of what we saw the build up to in the last section we were reading, where Njol's three sons have killed Hoskuld, their foster brother. And now we have a lot of people led by a man called Flose, who are coming to the house of Njol, basically to kill the Njol's three sons as a revenge for that. But Flose and his men know that they will probably not win this by force, because Njol's sons are very good with weapons, and they also have sort of the benefit of being on home turf. So Flose and his men are kind of uncertain how to go about this, but when Njol tells all of the people to go inside, because Gunnar of Lidarende, that we read about before, he was able to defend himself for a very long time inside his home, and this is a bigger and more fortified home, and there are more of them, so he argues that they will do better indoors. His sons, particularly Skarphedin, disagrees, because he said that but Gunnar was attacked by honorable men, which is not the case for us. They're gonna burn us alive. But they still end up going inside. And then, of course, that is exactly what happens when Flose sees them going inside. He gives the orders to put fire to the building. And he offers all women and children are allowed to go free. Most of the servants are allowed to go free, and he even offers it to Njol to go free. But Njol says that, no, at this point I'm too old, I won't be able to avenge my sons, so I might as well just stay. And then Bergthora, his wife, decides to stay with him, which is probably the only, I think this is the only time in this saga where a wife shows some kind of loyalty to her husband, and maybe even affection, that she chooses to die with him. And so they and their grandson, who also chooses to stay behind, go to bed and just await death there. There are many things I find fascinating with this scene. One of them is that this is one of the few things that we are pretty certain actually happened. Archaeologists have found the burned out remains of a house in roughly the right spot, and the timber of the building has been dated to the correct time, and they've even been able to tell that for those ruins, when the fire was running, the wind was coming from the same direction as is described in the saga. So we can be fairly certain that this burning down was an event that actually took place. But at the same time, I'm sure we can, I'm pretty sure we can also assume it did not happen the way it is described here, because I feel like a lot of the things we read here have a very distinct air of legend to them, particularly about how after the fire they find some of the bodies unscathed, both Njol and Bergthora and their grandson that has been lying below an animal skin. Their bodies are untouched by the fire, and then we have Skarphedin, which has been out in a room and having a log over him and stuff, and he is also unscathed, and his clothes haven't even burned. So there's many things like that. So, you know, this was written down 300 years after the fact, and the story has probably had a massive impact and has become a great legend, and some supernatural elements have gotten into the story. But still, I find it fascinating that we can pretty much assume that it actually did happen. The other thing, or one of the other things at least, that I find fascinating with this is the choice of actually burning down the house. Because there have been hints earlier in the saga, particularly when people attacked and killed Gunnar. Somebody suggested burning down his house, and the leader of that flock of people said, no, we are honorable men, we don't do that. And again, when they are coming here, Skarphedin describes the men that are coming as, these are not honorable men, they are going to burn us. And this is a hint that burning people alive inside of a building is not an honorable way of killing people. We see many killings in this saga, and a lot of them earn respect and honor, but this is not one of them. There's also another scene later on when the friend of the Njål's sons, who's called Kåre, he, together with another man, are hunting some of the men that partook in the fire, and there are 15 of the men they are hunting, and there are only 2 of them, and they come upon the people they hunt as all of them are sleeping. And so what Kåre and his friend does is that they go into their campsite, they throw away all of their spears, and then they don't kill them in their sleep, because it is said that would be a shameful murder. Instead, they wake them, and then they wait for them to pick up their weapons, and then they attack and fight. And they actually kill some of them, and the rest of the 15 flee. So the 2 people attacking are basically the winners of that fight as well. But there is no honor in killing a sleeping man. There is no honor in actually burning down a building with people inside it. And there's particularly less honor in this case because they are also burning innocent people, not just the 3 men that they were actually trying to kill. And again, this contrasts to what I've read from in the Norwegian king sagas, because there you find many examples of people being burned alive in their houses. Many of them people that refuse Christianity when the missionary kings are doing their thing. So this seems to be, again, something that is not well thought of in Iceland, but that was probably more commonplace in Norway. At least that's my impression of it. So let's move on, so this video isn't forever long. After the burning, we get a long section of court stuff, the aftermaths of this, where both sides are trying to recruit people to get support in the massive legal proceedings that are going to take place. The side of Flose is actually doing bribes, and that comes back to bite him in the ass a bit later on. The other side are not doing that, and they are also more restrained in their recruiting. I think they have the right on their side, so they don't need to work as hard to win favor with others. But yeah, this part of the saga is less readable. It is a lot of very formulaic stuff here going on about how, calling witnesses and making the case in the correct way. So it gets very repetitive. It's the same kind of formulaic language over and over and over again. And in this section, I think what I found most fascinating is in all of the legal maneuverings, you have sort of the side of favoring Njål has their expert, which is another foster son of Njål. And he is said to be the 3rd most knowledgeable lawman in the country. But he's not there, so they keep running back and forth to get his advice. And then there's also a man who is called Skafte, and he is lovsigemann in the Norwegian translation, but he is one of the people responsible for quoting the law every year. Every year 1/3 of the law was quoted by heart by this person. So when the sort of lawyers running the case are doing claims about the law, you can't look it up in a law book because there is none. So what they do is they go to him and ask, is this correct? And in here there's just one time where this foster son of Njål gives advice in saying that no, when they did this, we should do this, and the other side is completely taken by surprise, and they go to Skafte to check the legality of this, and he is surprised because he said, yes, this is correct, but I didn't think anybody knew this law. I thought it was just me and Njål who knew this, and apparently also Njål's foster son has obviously learnt it from Njål. But the fact that this expert in law was surprised that other people knew a specific law is kind of amusing to me, because that is clearly not a well-functioning system when you are surprised that other people than yourself actually knows the law. So no wonder it doesn't really work out. They are not able to find a legal solution, and it all ends in a battle. And eventually it ends in sort of one man's quest for revenge, because there are lots of mediations and people trying to get the two sides to reconcile, and to a large extent they eventually succeeds in this. The only person not taking any kind of deal here is Kåre, the friend of Njålsson's, because he promised, he was there in the house when it was burning, but he managed to get away, and he promised when leaving that he would avenge them, and so he refuses to take any kind of deal and instead goes on this quest of revenge for himself, and he basically takes them off one by one, and he hunts them around Europe doing this, until eventually at the very end of the saga there's only one left, which is Flose, the leader of the burners, but he reconciles with Kåre and they become friends, and Kåre actually marries Hildegunn, Flose's niece, that is the widow of Hoskuld, whose murder started all of this. So that's the end of the saga. I will say, after the big fire, the rest of it seems sort of anticlimactic, but it's still just overall an amazing story, and I have really enjoyed reading this saga, and I've particularly enjoyed reading it with a bunch of other people, being able to watch their videos and discuss things as we go along. That has just made the experience so much better. So yeah, what else do I have to say? Yeah, I forgot one thing that I was planning to mention, and that was I'm just impressed at how, even if people are enemies in here, like Flose and Kåre, because at one point Kåre he's going after all the men that were with Flose, and he takes them down one by one, and at one point they're at the Orkneys, and Flose and his men are with the Earl there. They're having a nice meal, and then Kåre comes in and he just chops the head off one of the men, and he's getting, I was going to say arrested, I mean apparently that's not the right word, but he was getting taken hold of by the men of the men of the Earl, and apparently, I mean, assumingly they were about to kill him, but Flose says no, he's in his right, he has the right to kill that man, it's fine, let him go. And just seeing the respect that they have for him, because he refuses to take any kind of settlement and instead does this is kind of fascinating. That's a word I've been using a lot. But yeah, how he is living up to a standard by refusing the settlement and actually settling the score in the old-fashioned way, maybe. But yeah, he gains the respect of his enemies as well as his friends through these actions. So yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna end Sagalong for this year. I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope you will join us next year for reading whatever it is we will be reading then. Yeah, until next time, bye.